let's look at my guy, Mr. Gentle and Lowly, Dane Ortlund. Now, he is the son of Ray Ortlund, my favorite living preacher. Love that guy. Brother of Gavin Ortlund. There's like 1,000 Ortlunds, and they're all great. And Dane wrote that book, Gentle and Lowly. And some people don't like it because I think they're just like not okay with like some of the attributes of Jesus. But, they don't like it. And so I like it, though. I like it a lot. I really benefited from that book. I think it's going to be a classic. I think it's going to be one of those works that stands out from the rest of the generation. I really do. So I like this guy. I don't like this tweet. And a lot of people were not happy about this tweet. So he says, frustrated and considering leaving Church X for Church Y? Let me go ahead and burst the bubble for you. You're going to find even more reasons to be disappointed at Y than you did at X. Your contentment at your church is not about the church. It's about you. Dig in and serve. Well, all right. Let me give some caveats before we dive into this thing. One, again, I like this guy, so we're not trashing on him. Two, I think I understand where he was going with it. All right. I think I understand that what he was trying to say is something that actually a lot of pastors say, and that is, there are people that are just going to complain about anything. They get to a church, they don't like, the carpet. That's an easy thing to go to, but they don't like something superficial, and so they're not happy about it. And maybe the pastor said something. And one time I got into trouble. I think I've mentioned this before. One time I got into trouble for talking about Star Wars during a sermon. Not because it was the Force, but because there were lightsabers and that's violence. But you get people mad about the smallest things, and it's just like, okay, you think you might want to go to a different church because of this minor little difference. Sometimes that's really wrong. And I think what Dane was trying to do was to kind of point at that and say, hey, if you're just going to complain about something and it's superficial and you're just like nitpicking, then you're probably going to go to a different church and going to find something wrong there too. And the point of that is that there are no perfect churches. Like that's a phrase that gets, said all the time. That being said, this is the internet. And when you put things on the internet, as I have found, you need to be very precise because other people will read whatever they're going through into that. And I don't think this was a wise tweet. A lot of people were like, are you talking about deconstruction? Are you talking about people who have experienced church hurt and have deconstructed in their faith, have left their church, have gone to a different church because of their church hurt? And I think that's fair. I think that's fair to criticize this tweet in that way because he was not specific at all. He just, maybe it was in his head. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt and saying that's probably what he meant, was that you're just going to come up with differences and you're going to be upset about something. So you're going to go to that other church and you're going to find something else to be upset about. That happens all the time. So I think that's what he was saying. But how this reads on the internet is not that way. How this reads for someone who has gone through things at a church, like I have, like many of you have. A lot of you guys have reached out to me. The reason why I talk about deconstruction so much is not because I'm deconstructing, although I have in some ways, but not that I am, but because a lot of you are. And you are passionate about what you're going through, and you feel like no one else is talking about it, that no one else has your back, and I want you to feel like there's someone who's holding on to orthodoxy who has your back. Who cares? And so we're going to be talking about these kind of things, even moving forward with this idea of underdog theology. This is going to be the same kind of theme running through. But that's why we keep on talking about it, because a lot of you have gone through it and are going through it. And if that's you, you might be looking at this tweet. And to be honest, if I didn't know who Dane Ortlund was and I wasn't giving him the benefit of the doubt, this is probably how I would read it too. Of just like, wait, what? You're belittling what I'm going through? Like, You don't know what I've been through, bud. You don't know the pains that I've experienced at my church. Some of you have gone through some crazy stuff, and you've told me about it. Like, you've messaged me and have shared your stories, and I really appreciate that. Not one story. Even if I didn't respond to you or didn't respond quickly, know that I appreciate you sharing your story with me. But a lot of us have been through some significant hurts. And so when you see something like this of just frustrated and considering leaving your church and just being told to dig in and serve, that's not helpful. It's not very pastoral. You want to lead people. And, for a guy who wrote a book on gentle and lowly, this isn't a very gentle tweet. It's your contentment at your church. Your contentment at your church is not about the church. It's about you. Now, I do think that there is something to this that we actually need to take in. Some of us have been hurt by our churches, but we shouldn't give up on the church. And that's so hard. And just telling someone to, well, like in a way, get over it, I don't think is very helpful. But, telling someone that you need to get through it is different. Not get over it, get through it. And there are different ways you can get through it. Maybe you do need to find a different church. Maybe you've been through so much at that church and that church is so corrupt that you need to leave. We're going to be looking at a video from Tim Ross, who has a podcast, I think just called The Basement. We're going to be talking about some stuff with pastors. But it's not just pastors who fail. And hurt everyone in the congregation. I was just talking this weekend with a guy from Mars Hill, and talking about the impact that's left in Seattle from what Mark Driscoll did. Talking to someone who was at Mars Hill. So like, it's felt by everybody when it's pastors, but also when it's just other people. And sometimes we get hurt from other congregants, and like, these are not insignificant. These are not just things that we could just get over. We need to actually process, and we need to be shepherded. And if the pastor isn't willing to shepherd in that moment, well, then maybe it is time to find a new church. And I'm also to this point, guys, I want you to know you are not chained to your church. Okay? Don't go just like, hey, like, again, just looking at the easy thing. I hate the carpet here. This carpet is brown. I wish it was tan. And so I'm going to this other church. Like, don't do that. And don't be like finding new churches all the time. But if there's actually something that's going on, now, a lot of things right now are related to politics and how politics are being discussed. And especially, someone's back on Twitter. Uh-oh. But, this is just going to get a lot more, I think. So, like a lot of those things right now, including things like Christian nationalism, which we'll talk about in a little while, these things are big issues, and they're being talked about a lot. And that might make it, that church where you're at, into a difficult situation for you, where it is no longer helpful to be at that church. And I think you need to have serious discussions with the elders about what it would look like for there to be some change on that. Or, what would it look like for you to transition to another church? Is there another church that they know of where you could be helpful, where you can be fed, and you don't have these huge just burdens being put on you as far as politics and different things like that? We need to be able to process these things. And so I think that there is some truth to this. And again, if it wasn't Dane Ortlund, I would be saying, a lot more strong things about it. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say, when he says dig in and serve, he's talking about people that are just frustrated with some little thing in their church, not something significant, not like church hurt. But I do think that it probably wasn't a great thing to put on the internet, where everyone has their own ways of reading into everything that you say. Oh, yeah? Well, get your own YouTube then. Oh, hey, you made it all the way through the video. That's actually kind of shocking. Hey, if you did, that means that you probably like it, so might as well hit the like button, right? Also, you can go over here and click on a video. I don't know what it is, but YouTube will be like, hey, you should watch this, and maybe they know. Maybe the algorithm is right. Maybe AI knows everything. Maybe it's taking over the world. I think it's taking over the world.